Have you ever been standing in your kitchen just juicing a lemon and suddenly think about Earthworm Jim? What am I saying? Of course you haven't. You're probably a normal person who just buys lemon juice in a bottle.
It isn't the same.
What?
It isn't the same.
What do you know about it? You just eat dirt.
I don't. I eat loads of stuff.
Oh, what?
Full English breakfast, doner kebab, beans on toast, apples for a bit of a balance. Hey, remember that time you took a giant bite out of that big old juicy English cocks?
Huh?
You know, the one that you was really enjoying, and you were just about to take your third massive bite until you saw my cousin Dave wriggling his arse into the other half.
Yeah, I remember that. I couldn't eat apples for 7 years after seeing that motherfucker.
Language. It's a family show. He still tells a story to the grubs about how he made you gag.
Alright. We all had a good laugh. What are you doing in my kitchen anyway? And how are you able to do something different so quick?
See that juicer you're using?
I do.
Well, my pedigree chum, that juicer looks just like my pocket rocket.
Kinda does. So what?
So you could make me one that resembles my actual pocket rocket and doesn't suck and cost a fortune like the 90s Playmates one. I'll give you some artistic license too.
I guess I could.
Come on, you know you want to.
Yeah, kinda do. Jim, ditch that juice. We have to hide any evidence of juicing. We have to make sure no one knows we took this juicer. Jim? What have I told you about drinking during the day? Bloody lightweight. Let me finish this apple and I'll throw you in the compost heap to sober up. Oh, come on, Dave.
Let's cue the intro and start scratch bashing.
If you are a fan of the classic 90s Mega Drive and Super Nintendo game Earthworm Jim like me, then you will know there has only ever been one attempt at producing his pocket rocket. And if you Google his rocket, you will see many different variations, including the Playmates toy version produced in '94 that lacked any resemblance to the game. And in this episode, we are going to change that and build our very own version out of junk. So let's get to it and start trash bashing. Right, so here is my tray of trash with items that I've already pre-selected that might work with this build. The two key ingredients are the lemon juicer and the spray nozzle from the insecticide bottle. The rest of the stuff are just options for small details like handlebars and side vents and maybe some wings. So let's get on with the body of the rocket and see how this thing takes shape. Now you'll see that once it slots over the top of the nozzle, I didn't need to cut the top slot out, but that's alright, we can just add another detail in there, as you'll see in a bit. And I decided to drill through the middle section for a bolt, so I can bolt the whole thing together when it's time for gluing. Not only will it hold it together until the glue sets, but it will have the added benefit of not relying on the glue to keep this thing together. Now I'm just pouring some plaster of Paris to fill up the back end. I was going to leave it open and maybe put some engine details in there, but I always overcomplicate my projects, and the point is to keep this simple, like the real fictional thing. You know what I mean. Now, the plastic on these juicers feel kind of prone to shattering, and this one is an old one that cracked, so I don't want to drill to make a hole in case it shatters. So I'm melting it with a solder iron so it doesn't put stress on the plastic. There's the benefit of the nut and bolt. Keeps it together hands-free so I can keep working on it until it's ready to be permanently fixed together. I was debating on whether or not I should put wings on it because I'm really trying to keep it as game accurate as possible, and then I realised I've already strayed away too far and now it wouldn't look right without them. So we are just going to have to be creative with the idea, and seeing this put together at this stage, it's given me tones of the Spitfire. Maybe it's a stretch of the imagination, but I see it, and the Spitfire is my favourite plane of all time. Loved making the Airfix model kits of World War II planes as a kid, especially the Spitfire, so I'm basing these wings loosely on that, which means, yeah, you know it, it needs guns. Right, remember I didn't need this top slot cut out? Well, we are turning it into a backlight, and I am a big Formula 1 fan, so I'm using the Earthworm warning light on the back of the cars as design inspiration by using a flashing red LED as if the rocket is in energy recovery mode. After baking the basic shape out of Sculpey, I drilled out some holes for the LED and then worked on sculpting the final shape. I'm marking out the position of the handlebars. I want them to be a solid fixture, so once again I'm going to melt out some holes for a popsicle stick with a soldering iron. Now I just need to cut them to size and glue on the handles, now they have a good surface to grip on. Spoons. Plastic spoons are great for crafting, and I only say that because all the other crafters always use spoons. I've only ever used them to eat or play a beat on the table when I'm waiting for the arrival of said food, to which the spoons perform outstanding in all those fields. So let's see how good spoons really are. And these are feeding hole covers from a bird feeder, and they have a curve to them that fits perfectly with the curve of the juicer and will make good vent detail. But there was no way I was going to melt a hole this big, so I'm breaking out the starret cutters and hoping I'm not about to destroy everything I've already done. I glued some 1/8 thick copper rods to the back of the spoon handle tips. After bending the rods to the right angle and drilling some holes to glue them in place, they make the perfect footrests and help keep Jim secure. After drilling a hole to thread the LED wire through to the front of the rocket to house the battery switch, it's time to fix the body together permanently using some epoxy. remaining epoxy, let's glue the light housing and the handlebars down before it cures. Anyone who has seen my videos may already know I like to experiment with materials. So to fill any gaps, I'm using some drywall spackle, and it does the job nicely. It dries fast, rubs down smooth, so I see no reason to not use it for this kind of stuff in the future. I didn't bother recording the priming and top coat application. You know what that looks like. So let's just dive straight into painting the details that makes this build come to life. I can't remember why I took this off, but I thought it would look cool on the back. The front piece was sprayed regal red, along with a yoghurt pouch top for the back blaster. Some Spitfire noses are yellow, so I went with that to make it stand out. Jim needs some comfy grips, so I'm wrapping some thick black thread around after applying some super glue to hold it in place before we move on to the finishing touches. Now it's just about making this thing look beaten up with some stone chips, paint flakes, rust and dirt. Using copper paint here to dab over the silver for some rust effect. Just adding some grease and oil marks before adding a seat made from silicone rubber just to protect the paintwork on the rocket and the figure. And now just to finish up with the cannons for the wings and an aerial before we head to the glamour shots to see how this thing turned out.
That's all, folks. Don't forget to like and subscribe.